Hi, I'm Councilwoman Jane Bonner in the town of Brookhaven. I represent the 2nd Council District, and I'm here with Bill Reitzig from the Miller Place community and Father Frank from Hope House Ministries. And we're here to discuss the Hope Walk for Addiction being held April 22nd at Cedar Beach, Saturday. Bill, why don't you talk a little bit about what led us to having our meetings and hosting this event down at Cedar Beach?
Certainly, Jane. We met Father Frank a few years ago when my son had an issue with addiction, in particular opiate addiction, through prescription originally, and it got worse and worse, and kind of went through a roller coaster process and in and out of systems. Luckily, we were able to supply some of the assistance and rehabs and so forth. But long story short, he wound up with Father Frank at Hope House. Great program. Unfortunately, he was doing well, fortunately, for 3 months, and then had a dark day last April 22nd, and passed away from first-time use of heroin. And so we, as my family, my wife, his sisters, my daughters, and our entire family, have decided to try and raise awareness, education, at the same time raise some funds. There's a tremendous lack of awareness and education, for that matter, and services for this community, if not nationwide. So we've got a website called hopewalkforaddiction.org, and on April 22nd, Saturday. Rain or shine, we're looking at conducting a nature walk rally at Cedar Beach. It's not a long walk. We're going to have some professional speakers, including Father Frank and maybe a couple of his students who've kind of gone through the ringer in society today. And we're excited about not burying our heads in the sand and putting it out there that we're not embarrassed that our son had an addiction issue, and he was a strong, proud person that struggled every day in his life. So we're here to try and give back.
And stripping back the shame of addiction is so incredibly important, because if we can't acknowledge that there's a problem, we certainly can't get to the root of it and try and solve it or manage it. So, Father Frank, you bring so many wonderful things to this table, and your knowledge and expertise in this area is renowned in Suffolk County and all over Long Island. Why don't you talk a little bit about...
Thank you, Jane. Bill is very, very humble. Bill and his wife are extraordinary parents, and did more than go the extra mile on behalf of their son, Billy. Billy was an extraordinary young man, but as Bill said, very, very strong and independent. He did agree to do our outpatient program, even though when he and I spoke, I felt because of his history that he would do better in a residential setting. But as we all know, we can't make someone do what they don't wish to do.
It's such a frustrating part of this.
And the piece, though, that I think is really important, I deal with so many parents, as you both know, and so many parents are in various stages of denial and minimizing the severity of what their sons and daughters are struggling with. What was so inspirational on behalf of the Reitzigs is their openness, their wanting to do whatever they could, taking direction, not wanting to put their heads into the sand, recognizing that their son was an adult and that all they could do is provide him opportunities and resources, which they did all the way to the end. And as Bill said, young Billy was doing great, but that's the affliction of addiction. It's just a choice, a moment of darkness that unfortunately ends poorly, and it did in his case. I think the Hope Walk for Addiction is so important. As you know, because of your position and leadership in our community, there's not a family that in some way, shape, or form is not touched directly or indirectly by addiction. And the lack of resources, the lack of awareness is mind-boggling. In one of your own high schools a couple of years back, because of the number of young people that overdosed, had an awareness day. And it was wonderful. I was privileged to speak in the high school, and then for this community, over 700 parents came to that awareness night. And there was a sense of solidarity, and a sense of connectedness that was an inspiration for me as someone in the trenches. But it petered out
Yes.
because no one seems to have a strategy or a mechanism that can continue the ongoing education and empowerment that is so desperately needed, because it's not going away.
No.
And unlike when all of us were much younger, those who played with dangerous drugs were the fringe people. Now we have athletes overdosing. We have presidents of school classes.
It's really made it into the mainstream.
It is everywhere. And now in our own community, our kids are so smart, people will drop it off at their house. The other thing that parents need to be aware of, 12-step meetings are wonderful. Hope House has meetings every day of the week. The scary part now, and I've been addressing this with the people involved with AA and NA, is that drug dealers know that this is a great prey. All they have to do is turn on someone in early recovery, give them the heroin, and they've got them back. And they're doing that. And that's what's so disturbing. So we need to revive the partnership between law enforcement, community, and those agencies and entities that provide support services for people battling addiction, because it's almost like a warfield out there. It's no longer just in certain areas, certain communities, it's everywhere.
And there's just absolutely no one way to solve it. So something like this walk will bring several knowledgeable people to the table to Cedar Beach with booths and informational packets and to bring awareness. Sadly, I'm sure that there'll be many people there that will have lost somebody.
Yes. The thing that's going to be wonderful about this, Jane, is that, again, Bill is very humble. He's very articulate. I don't know if you saw the letter that he wrote about his son that he shared at his son's funeral, which I presided at, which is heartwarming and would bring anyone who reads it to tears. But it's such a powerful story that he tells. And people need that sense of connectedness. We had a festival of healing a couple of months ago and didn't know. The weather was terrible. Over 250 people came because they just needed to be with other people. And I think as Bill has said so eloquently, the shame of addiction has never been a block for him, his wife, for his family. And for people to realize that there are other folks that are struggling and have sons and daughters that, acknowledge they have a problem but are resistant to treatment. And that brings us to the other issue, is we don't have enough treatment.
No.
As I mentioned before we started, I have spoken before every task force that the government has set up, both county-wise and state-wise. I'm tired of them saying, yes, we know, and we're going to give you money. And nothing changes. We don't need the money as much as we need the beds. Yes, the money have to pay for the beds.
Facilities.
But we need facilities, because if a mother comes to me and her heart is breaking and her son is ready today, not next week, not tomorrow, today.
Literally strike when the iron is hot.
And we're if I'm lucky, because of St. Charles's openness, I can get him into a short-term rehab. But again, insurance becomes an issue. And God knows where the insurance is going to be with all that's going on in our country. Because again, I think special needs people are going to get lost in the shuffle.
Yes.
And not everyone has money. I'll say to a family that comes to me, Father, just send me to a place. We'll refinance our house. And I'll say, your son's 25. Don't refinance anything. If he's willing, then let him utilize the resources we have locally. CK Post is free. It's sponsored by the state. And it's an excellent program. Do they have beds every time you call? No. But then there's Talbert House,
Yes.
where you can go. It's a non-medical detox that offers tremendous care. And people can stay there until a bed is available. And then we have the other detoxes if a person needs a medical detox. But I think one of the great things about the Hope Walk is to educate people, to give them in their hands literature, numbers to call. Like I'll say to my students, because I teach social science classes in a couple of different colleges, if you're afraid your friend is over, take them to the immediate emergency room.
Yes.
The emergency rooms don't like that, but by law they have to treat the young person and not release him unless he's safe. And at least that's a step.
Yes.
Jane, I think it's important to note that as parents, we were able to turn to Hope House, and our son eventually went there. And he had been in programs before, but there's a lot of issues. I can see the look on other parents' faces that I know they're struggling with their kids, and they don't know where to turn.
Right.
And that's something. There's some new agencies, FIST, Family and Supportive Treatment.
Claudia.
There's, Claudia and Anthony Rizzuto, and there's other programs that are really starting to just evolve, and it needs funding, it needs support, and it's, my heart's broken. I don't worry every day that my son, and he never got in trouble, but he passed away, and we did everything we could for him.
Well, so,
And-
that's an interesting
Yeah.
thing for you to say, because to know you, as I've know you through the community for a number of years, and I've seen you out socially, Father Frank touched on it earlier. It's crossed every boundary now. You would never think in your career, in your job, in your stature of life, and what you do for a living, and in how successful you've become, you would never think that it could touch your family.
And I think this has to be a model for every community. You read in Newsday, or you look under MSN.com, and you see that in West Virginia, there's too many funerals for the funeral homes to support right now. There's a bad batch of heroin in Ohio, and it could spread to New York, and then the pharmaceutical companies are being sued, and in my opinion, they should be sued. They put out bad press and bad statements that this OxyContin was not an addictive drug as much as other addictive opiates were. On and on. We can talk forever about that stuff, but we need community involvement by every community, starting on Long Island, spreading nationwide, to force the issues with more support, more education. I haven't, except for maybe recently, we haven't seen ads on TV about opiates.
No?
We used to see, here's your brain on drugs, and the frying pan with the egg in it, and I think that made a difference. And same with Don't Drink and Drive. A lot of young people today are pretty diligent in taking taxis.
We talk about that
and so
as
forth.
parents of 20-somethings, that
Yep.
they're all very, very careful when it comes to
Absolutely.
drinking and driving. They Uber, or they have a designated driver, or they make accommodations if who's going to be drinking and somebody in their crowd is not going to.
And I was very much a part of that movement, if you will, in the 80s. It all started in Massachusetts, Students Against Driving Drunk.
Yeah.
But it was raising awareness, and I took it a step further. It was about making positive choices to support each other. Let's not be judgmental. I mean, right now we live in a climate that everybody and their brother is demeaning one another. We need to move beyond that hateful rhetoric.
And social media, and
It's horrible.
it's coming at kids and families from every different direction. There are social media platforms that kids communicate with each other that parents have no knowledge of. So you could be the most diligent parent in the world, which you and your wife were, and your son still succumbed to addiction.
And I'd like to say one other thing is, I learned from Father Frank, listening to him and his preachings, and if I could take away one critical aspect of that, it was compassion. I showed my son compassion, and the more I showed, the more he trusted and seeked help.
You didn't lecture him.
No,
You didn't,
no, we-
yell
you
at
know-
him and boss him around. You just wanted to help him.
You try different things. You try anything. As a parent, I'd jump off the roof to try and save my kid. But the compassion aspect of things really helped. And unfortunately, every family is whether they're affected or their neighbors are affected or their nephews or cousins, there's somebody in everybody's family, unfortunately.
That has dealt
whether
with
it's
something
drug
like
or
this,
alcohol.
drug
or-
and alcohol,
Sure.
absolutely.
And I think, Jane, one of the things we could do even in our own township, thanks to people like yourself who are committed to the issue, is our schools are dropping the ball. They could do more within the local high school community. A one-day awareness program is not enough.
No.
We're talking about budget concerns. They probably should look to either subcontract or hire some drug alcohol people to be on their campus to work with students, because my experience when I was doing that circuit, kids were disclosing all kinds of things to
They
me.
were like sponges. They were absorbing
and
it.
they just needed support. They needed support. I mean, there's talk around the country about recovery high schools. I'm not convinced that a recovery high school is the answer, but I do think maybe a recovery homeroom. and support system. Let's not be embarrassed to if kids wanted to have an NA meeting on campus, since most of our schools are open campuses, and if there are folks that are vetted who are willing to come in to support that. I mean, just as an example, since we went back to the Friary, Hope House, as you know, started 37 years ago in the little guest house that the Anglican Franciscan Brothers had. A year ago Christmas, we took, thanks to their generosity, took hold of their whole campus of buildings. And they have a beautiful chapel that looks like a European chapel. And we have Mass every day for the young men that live there. And it's open to the community, and many who used to come when the brothers were there come. But on Sundays we have a service at 5 o'clock. And I decided to do that because it's become a place for all the broken and wounded parents who have sons and daughters that have either resisted treatment or are chronic relapsers, and they're finding tremendous support. Support from a spiritual piece, but also support from community. Seeing other parents that they've known and
They're
others.
not alone.
And there's, as Bill said, there's no judgment. People are just compassionate, And there's a lot of networking. Claudia, you mentioned, she's a godsend. That woman has more energy than God.
She's a dynamo.
And she's there, with her hugs, but also being available to parents because, like Bill, she lost a son and is just going the distance. So we do have some things that are present in the community. And I'm convinced, because of Bill's courage and the work and your support from the governmental side, that this Hope Walk can be a springboard for a lot of other supports. The bureaucracy, as you know better than anybody, moves slowly. So I'm not optimistic that we're going to get hundreds of beds in the next month or two. But if we could get hundreds of support groups, and there are, aspects of our community where people would be willing.
Pressure on the.
Oh, absolutely. But also that people have a place.
Powers that be.
People have a place to come to get answers, to get support, to do the hard things, to do an intervention. If they have a 22-year-old who is adamantly in denial, but they're finding all of his drug paraphernalia, and to help facilitate that. And again, not having to spend a ton of money to do that.
Not have to spend a lot of money, and to know that there is a support network. The Hope Walk for Addiction will certainly have numerous people there offering all the things that Father Frank discussed, that you discussed, Narcan training, informational packets regarding treatment centers available, the wonderful programs that you offer, all the different places that can offer assistance. It's been said it takes a village, and government needs to be involved in something like this. I work in government every single day. I see waste, fraud, and abuse on ridiculous levels, and if we could direct our resources to money well spent on something like this, where we know there's a success rate, rather than lip service about it, put our money where our mouth is, so to speak. That is money well spent in our future and the future of this country and this nation, because we're losing a generation to addiction.
Absolutely.
And those are years you never get back.
I urge everyone, our website is hopewalkforaddiction.org. The registration to walk is free. Donations are certainly accepted.
And you have sponsorship opportunities?
We do, and thank you to the town for the support, and Father Frank and his staff at Hope House, so that we can put on a success. I'm very, 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 very excited about putting on a rally, just a casual walk, and to raise awareness. It's so important.
Bill, it's so impressive to have been able to get to know you the last few months. It's very humbling and honoring to me, because you've taken such a tragedy and where I don't know that I could get out of bed. You have done something like this to bring awareness. You've taken your loss and shared it with the world, so no other family has to suffer the way that you and your family has suffered.
The day that Billy passed away, I turned to my brother and I said, what am I going to do? And he said, you're going to fight. And that's what I'm doing.
So this is your fight, the
It's a
Hope Walk
war.
for Addiction.
And you guys are foxhole people, and this is what we need to do in our society to make a difference and not put our heads in the sand. So, sorry.
No, please, you know, this
Bill is among the most tenacious human beings that I have ever met. And he's not abrasive. You know, you meet tenacious people from business.
He's just.
I don't know how he does it. He's so gentle and kind.
So we have had numerous meetings to plan this.
Yes.
And the town is a proud co-sponsor of this. And I should mention for everybody that all the money raised goes to Hope House, so Father Frank can continue the good work that he's been doing. He's so organized. We just offer support services. He comes in with this list, which is a blessing to an elected, and we provide commissioner support. And prior to this, we had a big meeting, and no surprise, we had said to the commissioners that came into my office before the meeting, my aide Lori had said, "You're not going to have to do anything. He's coming in. He'll come in with an agenda. He'll tell us what we need to do. We'll just say, you know, we know how to do this, you know," and that's exactly what happened. I think the only thing that I talked Bill into doing that he wasn't sure about was T-shirts. People like T-shirts.
Yes.
I said, buy the T-shirts. People and I said that'll be more money that can go to Hope House that we can help treat more kids
Sure.
and more young adults. So Hope Walk for Addiction. Saturday, April 22nd. Bill, wanted to mention the website again.
Sure, it's hopewalkforaddiction.org. And again, please register. It's free. We're looking for a rally of people and spread the word. We're going to have a decent MC. We're hoping for a celebrity. We have Father Frank as number one celebrity.
That's it.
And Jane from the town, etc. But you know, it's for the community. It's not for me. It's not about my son. It's to try and make a difference going forward. I can't do anything about the past at this point, but going forward, we all can chip in because
But
we're
you're-
all in the same boat.
You're changing the future of many people
Trying to.
by doing this.
And he truly is a beacon of hope. And I would just want to echo that invitation, even for families that do not have someone they know that's struggling with addiction. I think this is a time for us to come together as a community. We have been so divided this past year with the election and everything else, to come together as a community and really work with one another to celebrate the hope that Bill enfleshes by the fact that he initiated all of this so that we don't have to bury any more young people.
And this is an issue that we can all support, and it doesn't matter what party you're registered to.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Father Frank, for joining me here today. Once again, April 22nd, Saturday, the Hope Walk for Addiction. All money that is raised will go to programs and services at Hope House. Thank you.